This week, I picked up a model from my local hobby shop, Southside Trains in Milwaukee. It's a model of St. Martin's Substation on the TMER&L, the Milwaukee Electric Rail and Light Company. They have a wonderful 3D printer named Jeff King, who did an amazing job on this model. First thing we're going to do with the model is shoot a coat of primer on it using Tamiya's white primer, as that is what's recommended by the 3D printer to use for priming the structures. We're going to do light coats and multiple applications, probably 2 or 3, just to get good coverage on it. And as you can see, then we'll come back and take a look at it after it tacks up and see how it looks and how many other coats we might need to put on it. As you can see, after 2 coats of primer, it looks like that'll be all we need. And now, it'll be time for a little bit of color. Now, the original structure at St. Martin's was a cream city brick, so we'll be using some yellow and mixing a few other hues in order to give it a classic cream city brick yellow color. Now that we have a base of yellow, we're going to use some lighter colors by Tamiya to give that lighter color that cream city brick usually is known for. Now we won't be just covering it, we'll just be using a light mist of these colors. Now that our base coat is basically dried, another feature on most cream city brick buildings was pollution. So you'd see very dirty brick. And in order to achieve this effect, I'm going to spray a little far away and let some of the black Tamiya paint fall onto the surface. Now, as you can see on here, I tried on the corners here of the brickwork to use an acrylic marker. Unfortunately, that's a little too white for me. So on this face here, I took some regular acrylic paint, model color, white, and then managed to water it down. Now to mix up this paint, you just want to use a little dab. That's about it. And then add just a small amount of water. And that'll take you pretty far. And then just mix it up with your brush. And that gives you a good mortar solution. It's pretty milky, but that's all you need. You just want it to apply light and dry down in the crevices of the brick. And then brush it on, let it seep down into the cracks, and then grab a piece of paper towel and just dab the excess off. And that's all there is to it. You want to put a nice, fairly thick coating on there. Anything else that you don't need, you can mop up with the piece of paper towel. But you really want to let it seep into the spaces in between the bricks. I'm very happy with how this turned out. Might need a little more at a later time, but I think for now this looks pretty good for a brick and mortar effect with Cream City brick. Next step, once this all dries, is to paint a terracotta roof and do the doors in a dark forest green. Now for the roof on the building here, I used a polyscale oxide red. The original roof on the structure was terracotta, and the oxide red does a really good job of representing that. I also used a narrow but somewhat wide brush to do nice strokes, be able to get in without spreading too much paint and keeping some of the detail, as well as making sure that the paint didn't bleed down to the brickwork. Now for the doors on the bottom, I'm using a Tester's flat beret green. This is very close to what is on the doors at the East Troy Electric Railroad Museum substation, so that's why I went with it. You can see I've done a first coat. Now I want to get a nice second coat to get a really deep color. I'll also be using this very fine tip paintbrush in order to fill in all the gaps and try not to bleed over onto the brickwork. Now in doing this, the best thing to probably do is go to an edge and just drag your paint as you go. This should prevent most of the bleed over and keep your brick from getting dirty by the other color paint. Otherwise, if you have to, you can clean it very quickly if need be. Now there is some excess on here. Might have gotten it a little too covered in paint, but that's okay. We can fill in all these gaps and drag the paint down to where it's needed more. So you don't want to use too much paint, glob it on, and then lose all of your good burnt detail. Go with lighter coats if you need to. Keep that detail, and remember, you can always let it dry, do another coat, and get it darker. Now for the finishing touch on the structure, we're going to hit it with a TMER&L semi-gloss clear coat. This will protect it during shows and make sure that any damage it might see will affect the gloss and not the actual paint or do any damage to it like that. And we're just going to do nice even coats, just like we did when we put a little more texture and color into the Cream City brick.